All right, guys. So I usually don't do stories like this because they're not overtly political. However, I could not help myself because this story right here is a woke disaster, right? This is the epitome of go woke, go broke, okay? And I could not help myself because you just can't make this stuff up, right? The efforts of some of these people to go woke truly is backfiring on them, right? And this right here is hilarious. As Steven Spielberg released an update of the West Side Story, which is like a 1960s Romeo and Juliet type musical romance film that involves whites and Puerto Ricans falling in love with each other, doing some gang wars in New York City, right? Classic film, okay? And he's remaking it. However, he's remaking it in his woke image, right? It ends up being an absolute disaster. But before we get in that, we got to talk about the wokeness here, right? The wokeness that, in my opinion, probably contributed to this disaster. As Steven Spielberg basically refused to subtitle Spanish in his woke West Side Story to not give English the power. Okay, so he's not including English subtitles for Spanish conversations, right? Because in the movie, some people speak Spanish. Okay, so he's basically saying, look, I'm not gonna put English subtitles so that, you know, English speakers can actually understand the Spanish, because I don't want to give English the power over Spanish. Bruh, you cannot make this up. Okay, you can't make it up. So again, I just want people to understand. He's basically saying, I don't care if English speakers can't understand it because I want to be woke, right? So if you're deaf and you can't hear anything, and you want to keep up with what's being said, you can't. You're being discriminated against because, you know, this guy wants to be extra woke, right? I want people to understand that. And guys, you know, I told you I don't really watch a lot of TV and stuff like that. But when I was growing up, I watched, you know, a lot of anime and stuff. I'm not afraid to admit that, okay? I'm not afraid to admit that. And I love subtitles, right? Because the original language, in my opinion, they do it right. They play the characters right. The emotion just feels better, right? And I don't like dubs, right? Dubs, which means that, you know, they take, like, you know, Japanese characters and they make them English or whatever, right? They make them speak English or whatever. I don't really like that, because I don't think they get the emotions right. Okay, so I like subtitles. I love subtitles. Okay, I anything that I watch that's foreign, I'd rather watch it in its original language and read subtitles, because one, that helps me kind of learn the language. And right now I'm attempting to learn Spanish. So, you know, I would appreciate a Spanish movie that has English subtitles so that it helps you learn the language, right? But again, this guy right here wants to be so woke that, you know, hey, he doesn't think about all those other elements, right? He's just trying to be woke, and it's so hilarious. And I want you guys to understand his reasoning here. Steven Spielberg is opening up about his discussion to not subtitle the Spanish language scenes in his West Side Story film adaptation. The director, 74, told IGN in an interview that he didn't want to subtitle any of the Spanish out of respect for the inclusivity of our intentions to hire a totally Latinx cast to play the sharks, boys and girls. Wait, let me get this straight. You care about respect, right? Out of respect, but you use the term Latinx, which is flat out disrespectful, right? Guys, I already did a video on it. There's polls out here that shows that the Hispanic community overwhelmingly does not like the use of the term Latinx, okay? They're trying to take gender out of a gender language. Again, these people are so woke that they don't really even care about what the people actually feel that they say they're trying to appeal to. They don't really care about that, because if they cared about it, they wouldn't use the term Latinx. They're simply trying to virtue signal. That's what's happening here. Quote, that was a mandate that I put down to Cindy Toland, who cast the movie, that I wasn't going to entertain any audience that aren't descended from parents or grandparents or are themselves from Latinx countries. Bro, unbelievable. Spielberg said, especially Puerto Rico, we look a lot in Puerto Rico. We have 20 performers in our films from Puerto Rico or they're New Yorkin. Spielberg said casting actual Latinx performers was very important and goes hand in hand with my reason for not subtitling the Spanish. If I subtitled the Spanish, I'd simply be doubling down on the English and giving English the power over the Spanish. He said this was not going to happen in this film. I needed to respect the language enough not to subtitle it. Wow. Wow. Bruh, I get it's about respect, but you're using the term Latinx, right? Again, while at the same time, apparently there's a lot more Spanish in this movie than the original movie, right? Which means that, again, a lot of people who simply don't speak Spanish or are deaf or whatever, they're not going to be able to keep up with what's going on. They're not. Because, again, this man wants to be woke. So let's see how woke West Side Story performed at the box office. As it falls flat with a disappointing $10 million debut. Yes, $10 million, right? For a very highly anticipated remake of a classic film, okay? Steven Spielberg, right? It's not necessarily a small name here, right? $10 million. Boy. Just wait till you hear how much they spent on this. Audiences didn't open their wallets to see the infamous rivalry between the Sharks and the Jets play out on the big screen. West Side Story, Steven Spielberg's remake of the classic musical, fell flat in its box office debut, collecting a paltry $10.5 million from 2,820 theaters. That's a cause for concern because Disney and the 20th Century Studios spent $100 million to revive the Shakespearean love story for modern times and stands to lose millions unless West Side Story endures at the box office through the holidays and Oscar season. I highly doubt that's going to happen. Okay, I want y'all to understand. It racked up $10 million after they spent $100 million producing and more to advertise it, right? So they're going to lose money on this, right? Most likely. And again, I don't see why anybody would want to go see it, considering how, hey, there's more Spanish in it and there are no subtitles. So, as an English speaker, why would I be interested in going to see this if I can't even understand parts of the film, which means I can't understand context and stuff like that, right? It doesn't make sense. Why would I be interested in it? Again, this is wokeness going wrong, right? Go woke, go broke. It may be possible to attract moviegoers between Christmas and New Year's, but it's a bad start for one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year and one that opened exclusively in theaters. Though every new musical has struggled to entice audiences in COVID times, it's worrisome for both theater operators and traditional studios that West Side Story, one of the most beloved stories in musical theater history and under the direction of Hollywood's most commercially successful filmmakers, sold fewer tickets than In the Heights, an $11.5 million debut, a lesser known song and dance property that premiered simultaneously on HBO Max. And I believe that movie, they only spent $50 million to produce that, right? But it did better, slightly better than the West Side Story that's produced by Steven Spielberg, and they spent over $100 million. Again, wokeness going wrong, right? Wokeness going wrong. West Side Story at least earned more than Universal's Dear Evan Hansen adaptation, which premiered to $7.4 million in September while playing exclusively in theaters. But that's not exactly a high bar considering Dear Evan Hansen was skewered by critics. However, In the Heights and Dear Evan Hansen cost far less to make than West Side Story. In the past, we've seen musicals connect with critics and audiences and go on a run, says David A. Cross, who runs the music consulting firm Franchise Entertainment Research. For example, Chicago opened to $10.8 million in 2003 and ultimately earned $170 million, while more recently, The Greatest Showman debuted at $8.8 million and kept chugging along until revenues hit $170 million. So I guess this could be possible, right? It could be possible for them to make a comeback for this woke film. We'll see. But that was then, and this is now. Moving on conditions remain impaired. Gross says, if West Side Story is going to be profitable, it will need to connect internationally as well as domestically. Yeah, so we'll see. But like I said, man, in general, this type of stuff, in my opinion, it's hilarious, when the wokeness kind of backfires, at least for now. But again, to me, it's just like, why, right? Like, what is the point of not having English subtitles, right? I mean, again, you're discriminating against other people to try to show respect to other folks, and then you can't even respect them enough to not use a term they don't like, right? It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. So with that being said, hey, if this movie doesn't bounce back in the box office, if they end up losing money, I can't say I'm gonna be sad about it, be mad about it, because I mean, somebody like me, who possibly could be interested in seeing it, I might not be able to because I wouldn't even better understand some of it, right? And I feel like other people may feel the same way. Who knows? But hey, like they say, go woke, go broke. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.